Finally, the conclusion. First deflation, then super or hyperinflation. The great debt implosion in Europe, the UK, and America. The greatest contraction of M3 money supplies, i.e. liquidity squeeze, in the US since 1929 to 33. The greatest unemployment since the Great Depression. The greatest implosion in real estate since the 1930s. The breakdown in the US and other global stock markets. The greatest number of personal bankruptcies since the Great Depression. And the greatest credit crunch since the 1930s all point towards a massive deflationary depression here in the US and in Europe and the UK. Contracting annual growth in broad money supply signals contracting economic activity. With the broad money supply down 6% or 8% inflation adjusted, and even broader MZM money supply down 10.7%, the U.S. economy appears ready to roll back over into recession or worse. In fact, we believe will be obvious to even the staunchest permabulls by this fall. Indeed, without falsified government stats in the economy, i.e. GDP, unemployment, CPI, etc., it would already be obvious to everyone. The multi-trillion-dollar stimulus package only slowed down or gave brief pause or bounce, called recovery by the powers that be, in the economic decline. Now the Obama team is panicking and asking for another $200 billion stimulus package, which it desperately hopes will cause the economy to bounce before the November midterm elections. They may not get it. But the government's sovereign debt, soon to be $14 trillion, is our Achilles heel. Just as huge debts in Europe are threatening a cascading systemic collapse, replete with sovereign defaults in Europe, i.e. Spain or Hungary could be next. Currently, the US dollar is strong and has safe haven status as the world flees from the specter of sovereign defaults in Europe. However, America's finance and balance sheets, the federal governments, the feds, and those of state and local governments, are actually worse than the UK's and Europe's, and many times larger. When that reality dawns on foreign holders of trillions of dollars, and they begin to stampede out of the dollar, as they have the euro in recent months, the government and Fed will have to print trillions of dollars to buy back the tidal wave of dollars that will hit our shores. And at that point, in a matter of only a few weeks, the dollar could super or hyperinflate. Hyperinflation of the US dollar within 5 years or less is very possible. Gold would soar to $5,000 to $10,000 an ounce in that scenario, and America, Europe, and the UK would plunge into an inflationary depression a la Weimar, Germany, 1919 to 1923. In the last few days of May, the public in Greece was stampeding into gold, paying $1,700 an ounce in a country where physical gold supplies are very low. From late April to late May, $1.46 trillion in market value was lost in the U.S. stock market. One of the most important considerations in the current crisis is the speed with which it is spreading. As alluded to earlier in this article, when the panic hits, as it is now doing in Europe, the stampede for the exits will be with lightning speed. One apparent contradiction that is hard to wrap your arms around is that while credit, and with it the economy, and most financial assets are contracting, consumer prices are still rising. Consider fuel, medicine, education, food, and one might guess what price inflation on things we must consume is close to 10%. John Williams' Shadow Government Statistics says real-world inflation in the U.S. is about 9.5%. Actually, energy and food prices rose 18.7% from March 2009 to March 2010, and we're up almost 4 percentage points from February to March 2010. Food prices alone rose 6.2% in the first quarter of this year. The necessities of life are inflating at the fastest rate in 26 years. So we are actually in an inflationary recession, with the economy, unemployment, credit bubble, real estate, and stocks and bonds contracting or deflating. Deflationary depressions can morph quickly into inflationary depressions and then hyperinflation as panicky politicians and monetary authoritarians crank up the printing presses at Mach 10 or Mach 20 speed. We know, well, as you can see, it's not getting any better. This just confirms everything that we've speculated, drawn conclusion to, and whatnot. Excellent read. Think about it, folks. Get ready. Peace.